Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at, well, a really quite unusual situation.
Uh-huh.
It involves a Maryland man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. You might see his name spelled a few ways in the sources.
Right, Kilmer, Abrego, Garcia.
Exactly. He was deported to El Salvador, and we're going to try and, unpack what happened here.
And what seems significant right away is the involvement of Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, his name pops up a lot.
And
Hollen, Senator Van Hollen, Chris Van Hollen, El Salvador. It makes you think, why so much focus from a senator on this specific case?
That's a really good question. Maybe it's the circumstances. The fact that he was deported, this Maryland man deported to El Salvador.
Right.
And then you have El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele, saying something quite striking.
Yeah, that he won't return the man because he was mistakenly deported. That word mistakenly is doing a lot of work there, isn't it?
It really is. If it was a mistake, well, that opens up a whole can of worms about the process.
Absolutely. And Bukele saying it publicly, that adds, a diplomatic layer. It's not just a domestic U.S. issue anymore.
Okay, so we have the deportation, the senator's interest, the president's statement. What else is in the mix? The sources mention MS-13.
Right, the gang MS-13. Now, it's important to note, these materials don't explicitly say Abrego Garcia is in the gang.
No, they don't.
But its mention provides context, maybe. It often comes up in discussions about immigration enforcement from Central America.
Sort of the background noise, maybe, to why these things are sensitive.
Could be. We also see names like Stephen Miller and Tom Holman mentioned.
Ah, right. Figures known for, let's say, a stricter approach to immigration.
Exactly. Again, maybe not directly involved here, but their names appearing might signal the kind of policy climate this happened in.
Gives a sense of the broader context.
Okay.
And then there's the legal side. Judges are mentioned.
Yes. Judge Wilkinson and Judge Paul Zenas. It seems Judge Sheenas presided over at least part of the Abrego Garcia case.
So it did go through the courts. Wasn't just an administrative removal without review.
It appears so, which makes the mistake claim even more intriguing, perhaps. What kind of mistake, if the courts were involved?
Good point. And where is he now? The sources mention Sicat Prison, El Salvador.
Mm-hmm. A high-security prison in El Salvador?
So a Maryland resident now in Sicat. That's quite a stark outcome.
It really brings home the human element, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And legally, there's mention of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, that's the federal appeals court covering Maryland, and even a Supreme Court 9-0 ruling.
Okay, so potentially higher-level legal precedents could be relevant here.
Possibly. It suggests the legal arguments might be touching on some fundamental issues.
Like due process, that term comes up.
The fundamental question, really, was his legal process fair? Was his right to due process upheld?
Especially crucial if there's this claim of a mistake floating around.
Exactly. And one more slightly obscure reference is the Logan Act.
Oh, right. What's the connection there? It's usually about private citizens negotiating with foreign governments.
Well, it's not spelled out in our sources.
Yeah.
But, with Senator Van Hollen being so involved, maybe it relates to his communications or interactions regarding El Salvador. It's speculative, but interesting.
A potential, if unclear, legal wrinkle, and Trump MSNBC mentioned too, suggests these topics have been debated publicly.
Definitely part of the wider political conversation.
Okay, so let's try to pull this together. We have this deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
High-level political interest from Senator Van Hollen.
A claim of a mistake by El Salvador's president.
Legal proceedings involving federal judges and potentially higher courts.
Questions swirling around due process.
And these background elements like MS-13 context and even the Logan Act possibly being relevant.
It's definitely not straightforward. It touches on immigration law, individual rights, international relations.
Yeah, quite a complex web.
It really underscores how complicated these deportation cases can become.
So for our listeners, perhaps the takeaway question is this. What does a case like Abrego Garcia's reveal about how we balance immigration enforcement priorities with fundamental due process rights, especially when international diplomacy gets involved?
That's the core tension, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
A lot to think about there.